Good morning and welcome to the Committee of the Whole of the Municipality of the County of Annapolis. We'll begin with roll call, starting with District 1, please.
Bruce Prout.
District 2, Brian Fuzzy-Connell.
District 3, Dustin Enslow.
District 4, Dwight Vernon.
District 5, Lynn Longmire.
District 6, Alec Morrison.
District 7, David Hudson.
District 8, Michael Gunn.
District 9, Wendy Sheridan.
District 10, Brad Redden.
District 11, Diane Black.
Thank you. Are there any disclosures of interest? Thank you. Any comments on the order of the day?
Right here, sir.
Yes.
I'd like to, page 37.
Yes.
The recommendation from the Forestry Advisory Committee, that's been changed to work. There is no motion here. There's no motion. We have, since this went on, it's been sort of canceled. The Forestry Committee is going to meet with Laura Carter before and take care of that, so we don't have to have a presentation in council.
Thank you.
And we'll bring our recommendation to council.
So you're requesting to move item 6.1?
Remove it from the agenda.
Remove it from the agenda. 6.1.
Any other comments on the order of the day?
And we need a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve the order of the day as amended. Councilor Prout, Councilor LeBlanc, discussion. All in favor?
Yes.
Thank you. Minutes of the 12th of February Special Committee of the Whole. Of the February 13th Regular Committee of the Whole. And the 4th of March Special Committee of the Whole. Thank you. We'll move on now to page 11 of 41. Councilor Sheridan, please.
I move that Municipal Council approve policy 109, tax exemption and reduction, which is new, a 7-day notice.
Thank you. Seconded by Councilor Gunn. Discussion. All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Thank you. Next is page 22, derelict vehicles. Councilor Cotw, please.
Yes. I recommend that Municipal Council approve the derelict vehicle collection program for the 3-year term, 24-25 to 26-27, with an option for the County of Annapolis to extend the program for an additional 2 years.
Thank you. Seconded by Councilor Hudson. Discussion. All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Page 23, actually page 24, actually page 25. Yeah, motions are on 24. Councilor Gunn, could you do the first one, please?
Yes, sir. I recommend that the Municipal Council approve a grant to the Upper Clements and District Community Hall Association in the amount of $1,200 to support roof repairs to the hall in accordance with AM 1.4.9 Community Grants, Community Halls and Centers Assistance Program.
Thank you. Seconded by Councilor LeBlanc. Discussion. All in favor?
Yes.
Approved. Who would like to do the next one? Councilor Connell, please.
I move that Municipal Council approve a grant to the Fundy Folk Association in the amount of $5,000 to help support the Evergreen Theater stage lighting replacement program in accordance with AM 1.4.9 Community Grants Small Project Matching Grants.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Crowe. Discussion. Councillor Cotw.
The Evergreen Church is just a small little community project that they took over a few years ago. They took an old church over in the corner of Margaretville, and they actually bring some fairly high entertainment
What do you do?
Oh, my goodness.
and it's an enjoyable place to go. I've gone there to a few kitchen parties, and they've made a wonderful place out of that for entertainment for our family.
Their co-funding has been approved as well.
Awesome.
I got an email right before the end of last week, so.
Very good.
Councillor Crowe, followed by Councillor John.
I'm going to echo Councillor Connell's comments. I was there Sunday night for an enjoyable evening with Evans and Doherty.
Oh, yeah.
That was a great.
Did they sing that one with Silver Stream?
I had to leave a bit into the second set, but it was great what I was there for.
He was in jail in New York.
Yes, he's down in Texas, I think.
Councillor Gunn.
I want to echo their thoughts. For a community little theater that was just an old church, and then they added that piece on the side of it. They very seldom ask us for anything. And I've seen some great world-class entertainers there. Lenny Gallant, great maritime talent. God love them. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Motion carried. Councillor Bartow, please.
I move that the municipal council approve the grant to the Round Hill and District Recreation Commission in the amount of $16,679.87 to support building repairs and upgrades at Fisher Park Recreation Facility in accordance with AM 1.4.1 community grants for the capital pledge grant.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Gunn. Discussion.
Thank you. Could I have no, sorry, thank you.
All right. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you. And we will go to page 27. Councillor Ensign.
Thank you. I move the council enter into a 3-year lease agreement with Bridgetown Dog Park Association for the lease of PID number 05149505, Bridgetown, to allow for recreation at the dog park. Awesome.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Gunn. Discussion. Councillor Connell, followed by Councillor Ensign.
I read that and I didn't quite, my concern is that if we lease it, I feel that people that lease it should be taking care of it themselves. I don't think that our staff should be mowing lawns and stuff around our community. We do all of our own, and if it was our park, I would have to consider what we do in our own parks. But if we're leasing the land to a private not-for-profit, I feel they should be taking care of their own, the cleanup and the maintenance of the area.
Thank you. Councillor Long, please. Did you want to go next?
You can go first.
Oh, and I had your name down.
Oh, no, that's all right. You can go first. That's fine.
You sure? Yeah. Okay. I have only one question because when I read on page 28, it is the last paragraph just before the financial implications, because it's new. But in there it says that we had a recommendation that we implement a registry system. And I thought, well, okay, how would that work? And it's a good idea because then you know who's going, and it might not cause so many problems. It might so, because if we have visitors, then there's another question. But then it's who's going to enforce rules if there are rules, and who is it our staff, the animal control staff, that will enforce the complaints, and how will that process go forward, and are we set up for that? I guess I have any questions or comments.
If I may, Warden. The Dog Park Association has, during our talks, they do want to maintain the area themselves, and the only thing that they requested is normal curbside pickup for garbage, which I think all those details could be fleshed out in the lease agreement. As far as operating the park, that would be, if council enters into a lease agreement with them, that would be their responsibility to implement a registry system. That was actually a suggestion from our protective services department, because we needed their opinion as well. Any animal complaints and dog complaints especially they are going to field the calls just like they would now. And they do have a concern that that may be elevated because they have calls from the Bridgetown area now. But that's something that would be the responsibility and enforcement of the group if we entered into an agreement.
So, if I may, please. So, are these already written into the lease agreement, the sections about them being responsible for registration and...
No, that hasn't been developed as of yet. Just need a council's decision to move forward if that's the direction that you guys wish to go.
I'm great with going forward. The only complaint, or the only concern I have is that we have to have those things in the lease before we even go too far. And the second concern is the safety of, if people are playing baseball, those people in that field with dogs or people and dogs, period. You just need one stray ball and it could cause damage. Where do we fall there? Their claim, would it be a claim on our insurance? Or would they have their own insurance? There's another question.
They would be required to get insurance, yes.
So
And all of this would be in the lease.
And all
Yes,
okay.
that's correct.
Well, I'm good. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Further discussion? Councilor.
For the second time. Thanks. So since this has been discussed, there's been a lot of conversation around my district and Councilor Hudson's district, so Bridgetown as a whole. And I was surprised with the amount of conversation, but it was all mostly positive. I think it's a great idea. But there was some concerns from one group in Bridgetown that feels that it might not be the best location, only because they feel that it might take away from people's parking or people being able to observe baseball. Apparently some people park behind there. So they're suggesting that maybe it can be behind the arena. However, after looking at it and meeting with their chair, it's I don't really think it's a suitable location. It's very muddy. It's even to get there in the winter, spring, and fall. The dogs are going to be all wet and muddy, and so is the people. I'm a dog owner and I want to use this facility, but I don't really want to go through all the mud and then have my dog run in the mud behind the arena. Then it comes up to snow removal, and then there's also discussion of where exactly is our line with the Legion Lions Hall. So I don't know if that's a good option, but they wanted me to at least bring their concern forward. I do want to see this move forward, and I think it's a great opportunity. It's a big need in our area. Right now, dogs are using the soccer field, even if it's locked. I don't know how they're getting in, but where there's a will, there's a way. Or they're just letting them run loose through the community, which is not a good idea either. So I'm supportive of this, and I think it is a good idea and a good location. There is some pros and cons where they got to come up with some type of system for foul balls. However, the way that the diamond is, even if you're in the dog park, there's more of a risk actually by the arena side where the fire hall used to be than what there is behind there. So I don't really think that that's we need to look at both areas for a concern. But I'm supportive of this, and I think it's a good location. And baseball itself, I'd like to see it come back, but it's not as prominent as it once was. So I think there's mitigations that can be in place, and the concern around parking, I think, is now obsolete in some ways because the fire hall's not there. So the parking lot is now huge. As we can see, there hasn't been a parking issue with this hockey season. I'm not seeing cars out towards Granville Street or anything. So, thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Young.
Thank you very much. I see in the Facebook this morning with some of the comments on the flooding was that piece of ground in back of there must have got a little wet in the rain the last couple of days, because somebody mentioned, well, maybe it's not the greatest place in the world for a park. It's because it was wet. My suggestion is that just about anywhere we put it at times of the year is going to be wet. And I want us to be careful that we don't put too many barriers in the way of these people trying to establish this park, because we don't want to shy them off. I think it's a good thing that the park's going to be fenced. I don't see any real problems that won't eventually take care of themselves. People will bring their dogs there. Some people will be visiting and they'll take their dogs there, so they might not be on the list. But I think all that will work itself out as time goes on. I'm all for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hudson, please.
Yes, I just want to perhaps say a few words to what Councillor Inswell has said regarding the parking. The situation that occurs there is basically your turn-ins, okay? And in the past, it's always been a place for people to come and set up for the day, okay? With whatever, right? Their picnic lunches and so on and so forth, right? And from that location, you can actually view the ball games, right? To some extent, right? And so the parking situation, like if you parked in where the old fire hall is, it doesn't give it doesn't provide the same type of parking space as the back part of the ball field. So that's what I want to say with the parking, and in that it is used and used basically during tournaments where families come set up for the day and so on and so forth. Now, in terms of location, I would be in favor I'm in favor of a dog park, right? But I think the location behind the arena is better suited than this particular area. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you. Councillor Longmire, please.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes.
Yes. Okay. My point that I just wanted to raise was throughout the document, I hadn't noticed that perhaps a consideration had been entertained on the size of dogs, and if the group were looking at even, a specific amount of space, like a third of the area. I know it would cost more fencing, but, there is a lack of confidence, if you have large dogs and small dogs, and it might be something to entertain, considering. Yes, thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Bartow, please.
Just a couple items. Just go back to the ballpark and dog park combination of this. And I just wanted to make very clear when we do release agreements that our liabilities are covered, because it wouldn't be the dog people's problem if we had a home run ball that knocked a kid or an adult or a dog in the head. I'm not sure how concerned we need to be about that, what the percentage of home run hits are of that park, but it's something that we need to bring to the surface and think about before we sign any leases. The other thing is parking. The plan that they presented didn't show any proposed parking. It shows a rectangle around the park. One of the photos is inverted, it's small anyway, but do we request them to have parking along the street at that park? And then it's going to take some of the pressure away from the ballpark parking.
If I may, Ward? In their proposal, I think it was where the photos are there. The two photos, the bottom, both of them, where the triangle is, there's off of Jeffrey Street. I think it's Jeffrey. There's already non-official parking. That's kind of there. It's like a turnaround spot. That's where they intend the entrance and the parking to be. As well, they roughly approximate the dimensions, as mentioned earlier by Lynn, 125 feet by about 200. Again, those details could be worked out within the lease agreement. And they do plan on, as far as the size of the animals, so they indicated during conversation that they're going to do a traditional dog park. If it goes well over the years, then they may accommodate for, say, smaller dog areas, so an enclosure within an enclosure. So it really depends on how the impacts to the community, how it's being well received, but they do plan on evolving, if it goes well, as an association, and to some extent even doing some outreach and events there to cater to canines. So that answers your question? Yeah.
Further discussion. Councilor O'Donnell.
Only because behind the rink it was called into question. How big is it behind the rink? Is it the same size? And do we have that much property behind there? Because I know when they use the rink that they have to park at the entrance, right? So I was wondering how much space do we actually have back there? Yeah. And in the wintertime they throw a lot of snow back there. I didn't know if it was as big as, or I wouldn't want to be in the mud either.
Thank you. Councilor Hudson?
They could park where the old fire hall is. They don't have to use the Legion, any parking at the Legion.
What size is the park, or what size is there?
The old fire hall was in front of the Legion.
Yes, but I'm wondering what is behind the rink that would be, what size is that piece, if it's anything close to this size piece?
My experience in that area is people park where they want to.
That's right.
The Legion parking lot is not used exclusively by the Legion.
Okay.
Councilor Connell?
So my question is, what are we voting on? Are we voting on them looking at
We're voting on the motion.
Yeah.
on the park being at the end of the ballpark?
Yes.
Nothing to do with, because this is the first time I've even heard that they looked at a piece in behind the arena.
They might have looked in anywhere. This is
this is their request.
I just brought it up as information.
I think so. Oh, yeah, I did.
Okay, further discussion, Councilor Hudson.
Yes, I guess I would maybe make a motion if I could, please.
No, you can make an amendment.
An amendment, okay, that someone can put the words to it, that the site behind the arena be investigated before we make this decision.
That's a different motion.
Different topic.
That's not even an amendment.
That's not an amendment. I mean, it's not a germane amendment.
Yeah. That's why I was mentioning motion, right?
Thank you. Further discussion. All in favor?
Yes.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Motion carried. Thank you. There's one against that I saw. Okay. 7. I reckon we're on on page 38. I would like to, Councilor Gunn.
Policy 108, medical recruitment financial assistance policy new. I recommend that municipal council approve policy 108, medical recruitment financial assistance policy, 7-day notice.
Thank you. Seconded by Councilor Tom. Discussion, please. Councilor Hudson.
Yeah, just for discussion, how is this policy, it's not going to be effective, but the province recently came out with, I guess there was a release of how they are going to be assisting sufficient doctors and stuff are coming into the county, and their assistance is considerably more than what we are offering. I think for a doctor that is in the county, if I recall right, it's like $140-some thousand. And I was wondering whether we should look at this policy again in light of that announcement by the province.
Thank you.
Just to clarify, the province currently has a very generous incentive program now for doctors that come. So this is just a change to that policy. So that policy has always been in place. They've just changed some of the structure and some of the amounts, but it's always been very, very generous. The current policy, as well as the proposed new policy in Section 9, says that our funding is in addition to that. So if they get that funding, it doesn't affect whether we get the funding or not. But that program has always been in place, and it's been very generous.
Okay.
Just changed a little bit.
I didn't realize it was already in place.
Thank you, Councilor Sheridan, followed by Councilor Cotw.
We were just talking about lump sums, things like that. So it doesn't have in here the amount. So is that something that should be written in the policy, or is there something that goes along with the grant policy?
If I may, the proposed new policy specifically leaves out an amount on purpose so that the committee and council can decide what's appropriate.
Okay.
Because it may be appropriate for somebody who's a part-time person to get a certain amount, and it might be appropriate for somebody else who's a full-time to get a different amount.
Okay.
The current policy gives everybody the same, and so this is just gives council a little bit more discretion as to that. So someone might come in and be a family doctor, and council might say, well, we'll give them a certain amount, and someone else might say, well, I'll come in and do ER, and council might say, well, that's really great, we'll give you a little more. So this gives council a little more discretion.
Very good. Thank you.
Councilor Cotw.
Thank you. On page 39, under program criteria, 5 seems like what's been in place before. I'm curious about 6. Financial assistance provided by the municipality may be used for salary enhancements, training, lease or rent payments, leasehold improvements, equipment and materials, additional staffing support, or work-related travel. I'm curious, Dr. X, she applies for the grant, she gets it. If she decides to use part of the grant she's received for equipment, materials, or whatever, that I would think would be their prerogative. But does this mean a clinic might be able to approach us and ask for a grant in order for the clinic to provide equipment and materials? That's what I'm wondering about.
And Councillor Pratt, you're absolutely correct. The current policy restricts it just to give money to the 2 foundations. This new policy allows us to give money directly to other groups who may want to just do that. So they might not be giving funding directly to a doctor or a nurse practitioner. You might be giving funding to a clinic to buy the equipment, and they would own the equipment, not the doctor.
Okay, I was just curious the way it read. Thank you.
Further discussion? All in favor?
I need to say something.
Okay, Councilor Long, please.
In this policy, all the things that I was thinking of are the amounts and so forth that were mentioned, which we had in our previous policies. This has certainly improved a lot. However, when we look at it, we have a 6-month setting of time for them to apply. And to be able to, if they don't hit that 6 months, what happens? I understand the full-time, part-time, but I think numbers also say we could say we up to the amount of $10,000. And what happens if they're not into the 6-month period? What do we do then? What's the process? We come to council and they decide they've been here for over 6 months, but we have it in our, we just do it that way and eliminate the 6 months?
It would seem to me that we would go according to the policy.
So therefore, if she, whomever, they miss the timeline, they get 0?
No, it's not that they
Well, I
can't,
guess
Sarah,
that-
they missed the timeline.
Okay, I don't.
We have, if I may, Mr. Chairman, the purpose of the policy, my understanding, is to get people to sign on for a long term. And so they have to sign on for 3 years or 5 years. And so the policy is written the way it is for 6 months to prevent somebody from being here for 2 years or 2.5 years.
I agree.
And then accessing the funding and leaving 6 months later because their contract's up. So we want people to sign on early on when they initially sign for their contract and not wait until the end and they take the money and then they leave because that potentially is there.
Well, and if I may, usually it would go to the association, and the association would, they would apply for the amount for a said doctor, and then it would come to us. So in this, we have seen that we have had doctors here, exactly as you said, for over a year or so, and then asking for what is in the policy at this time, which was the $10,000. So, how are we going to get this information? Is there going to be a form that will be provided to the association, or how do we directly give it to the doctors? Because there is a 6-month period there. 6 months not very long when you start thinking about it. But I agree, because of the 1 year, a year and a half, 2 years that they're here, and then they find out about it somehow, I don't know how, through the association maybe, but how do we get this information directly and from the get-go when they sign their intent of staying? That's just...
Mr. Chairman, I think the discussion at the committee level at the last meeting was we would develop a form.
Yes.
And then it would be up to the foundations, it would be up to the recruitment committees, it would be up to the provincial recruitment person. All those people should be notifying potential recruits, and when people are hired, here's an application form, here's the funding that might be available, fill it out. So all those different parties have a responsibility to make sure the new physician or nurse practitioner are aware of the program.
So we will definitely have this form to give to those people to have it ready. Here's my concern.
We will have something developed in the next, say, 30 days.
Okay. All right.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carried. Councilor Gunn, next one, please.
Next motion.
Oh, me. Okay, sorry. I move that the municipal council confirm that the mandate for the physician recruitment and retention committee ad hoc includes supporting community recruitment and retention activities such as community navigators and welcomers.
Thank you. Seconded by Councilor Ansel. Discussion.
Right here. Thank you so much. Well, and the welcomers in the community, I signed up for that, and I'm looking for others to sign up, and any other councilors as well. You know, it's one thing we get them to come here in the valley, but to get them, we need to retain them. So, you know, we need to make them feel not just comfortable, but try to find things of their interest, try to find out what their interests are, and make them feel comfortable in our neighborhood. And I think that after living here my life, that I'm pretty much up for that. I can take people from that have just come here and show them the interesting things in our community and perhaps find their interest and direct them towards it.
Thank you. Further, Deputy Warden?
I'm a little confused by the motion to start with. What is the current wording that exists for the mandate of the Physician Recruitment and Retention Committee? Because that seems to be the question, that they were uncertain as to the meaning of the original wording.
I think confusion may have arisen because we tend to shorten the names of committees. The committee has been colloquially referred to as the Physician Recruitment Committee, when in fact it is the Physician Recruitment and Retention Committee already. So it's just to confirm that council understands that retention is part of the mandate of the committee.
So, I guess I'm kind of we're talking about physician recruitment and retention. So community navigators and welcomers facilitate the retention of physicians? Is that what I'm understanding here then? Because I don't know what was the original motion. Does the committee have a mandate to start with? Is what I'm wondering. Because if you want me to confirm, if you're just providing me with information, I don't know why we're making a motion. Is my question. Is that the case? In which case, if you're just providing me with information, that the motion's not in order. It should be dispatched as such.
Councilor Longmire, would you step in here?
So currently, the navigator that had been in place, that has been working with the group all along, Brianne, she's no longer in that role. She has left for a different position. And so it leaves a very large gap in the retention piece of the work that's done. And so as Councillor Gunn had raised, it's one thing to encourage and recruit, but then how do we continue to show up for them in our communities? So it is a generous way of coming out and meeting with them on occasion, sightseeing or encouraging businesses to engage, or community halls, maybe to invite them to an event like the beautiful theater there up in the Councillor Connell's district. It's just an extra effort to care for those that we are recruiting. So the gap is there. They're hopeful that they're going to be able to secure a new navigator, but at this time, no one seems to want to take that under their wing. So a couple of groups are considering it, but there's been no answer to that to date. So this really was a topic of conversation around our last meeting because of the urgency to, step up and kind of fill in that gap. And so Councillor Gunn generously offered to kind of spearhead and suggest that maybe we should take that on in some form. So whether this is the right approach, I'm not sure. I think it's something that we should consider, and so I'll leave it there.
Thank you. Councillor Connell, please.
Myself and the deputy warden attended a workshop kind of thing, overview of what the South Shore, I'm not sure 100%, maybe Lunenburg, it's not area or something, but the retired doctor was doing this exact thing. And he really focused on the preaching of this is what keeps the doctors in the community, is that they look at what the kids need for activities, things they can suggest, the spouse. It looks at everything beyond just the doctor. It's looking at what does that family need to stay here and why would they stay here. And so I think it's a needed part, and if the navigator is not in place right now, we'd be losing out if we didn't try to at least have something that we could offer to meet with them, ask them what their interests are, tell them about our county, tell them about activities that may interest them. So I definitely think it's a good go forward.
I looked on it as the late Alan Fotheringham would have said on the back page of McLean's magazine, it's a matter of explanatory elucidation. Further discussion, Deputy Warden.
So I'm quite in favor of community navigators and welcomers, and as Councillor Connell said, that they spend a lot of time explaining that this is very important, and there's been a part of our conversations talking about how the community navigators and welcomers and things like that are important parts of retaining doctors. There's a number of organizations around the county that have done things. The Farm Cafe at NSCC in Middleton has a garden where they planted various ethnic plants that I'm not familiar with at all, for doctors and things like that. So it's not that part of the motion I was concerned about or curious about. It was the phrasing in general that I was confused about.
What I just said.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I guess basically to also sum it up is the fact that we have presentation from Karma explaining Brianna missing, but even with Brianna there, Brianna found that she needed people from the area where the person or the doctors or the nurse practitioners were interested in going so that they could go out there. We mentioned doctors, the retired doctors, but also she needs a list of people that they could call upon to help out, to show them around the area, to see what's there, see what they can use, see where they can go get whatever they need, and so on, and to keep their interest. So this is where it came from, and we know that you as warden, you have done a few beforehand, and I believe you've done the last one.
Yes.
And it certainly is, thank you for doing that, it certainly is something that they look forward to, because if you don't know the area, it's no different than putting one of us up from the other end of the county to this end of the county. We won't sell it as well as somebody that is right here. So it could be that we ask the auxiliary ladies or somebody, as retired doctors as well, as our counselor has volunteered to be on the list as well, so that Karma can organize and call different people. If one is not ready for, can't go, there'll be somebody else who could fall down the list. If I'm incorrect, I know that Councillor Longmire can speak on this or add to it as well. As for the motion, maybe it's just an intent of what we're going to do, or maybe it's more formal that we know that we're doing it and the people know that we're doing it. We need help. Volunteers.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion carried. The next item is quite titillating and spine tingling.
Thank you.
Mr. Warren?
Yes, Councilor Long.
I guess I have to say that I was disappointed when we received at the last minute that we would be able to meet with the TAO, the NSFM, and others. I talked to myself. We're not able to be here because I had other obligations. So, is there any information that we can receive from that, or Or could we ask the CEO not give 2 or 3 days notice before things happen so that we can kind of, I would have enjoyed being here. And I think maybe most of council would have probably been able to be here if we would have known.
The invitation was quite explicit, worded in CAO. And then maybe somebody someplace else must have asked, and we received the email later on that said, of course, councillors are. I'll make sure the next time she comes around, we all get invited here.
Well, I know that, I don't know what year it was, but we as a council sat with the CAO 3-4 years ago. Were you there, Councilor?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll leave it at that. We'll leave it at that.
Many years ago.
Yeah, you met too many years.
Any more for any more? All right, thank you. I would like a motion to go in camera in accordance with NGA Section 22(2)A, acquisition, sale, lease, and security of municipal property. Councilor Hudson, seconded by Councilor Schiff. Discussion, all in favor? Thank you very much.
I've written all of it.
Thank you very much. The meeting is adjourned.